All right, so these are the replacement lights I went with. There's many options. There's round, rectangular, square. These are the ones I went with just because of the space restriction between the bumper and, you know, the plastics and the upper rack and stuff. They seem to fit the nicest. Some of the others, it might have taken a little bit of modification. I'm really surprised somebody doesn't make an aftermarket LED replacement for these things, because they would sell like wild probably. I don't know, maybe there's some sort of marketing agreement. I don't know. I could not find one that had a side mount like the original factory Polaris does. So anyways, these are what I went with. Comes with a couple of brackets. Sorry, the brand name is Nylite. Maybe familiar with that. I've used them before on my motorhome. I have a couple of lights on the back of the ramp of my motorhome, and I was really pleased with them, and they're still working to this day. So you can read reviews on lights until you're blue in the face, and you're always going to find somebody who's had some bad experiences. So for the price of these, I was willing to throw the dice. You know, just like any others, I found very similar feedback. You know, lots of people raving about them. A few people had nightmare scenarios. Again, these are $16.99 for a pair. You know, there's two of them in here. The other one's here in the foam. And the bulbs to replace on the Sportsman, from what I understand, they blow quite frequently. I personally haven't had that be the case with past machines I've had, but it seems like it's pretty common in certain years. I don't know if there's a difference in some of the electrical configuration or what that makes certain years more prone, but these are a 2-wire light. My lights are a 2-pin connector. It has a brown wire and a green wire, the green wire being the positive, the brown wire being the negative. If you have a 3-pin connector, then you have to keep that in mind when you're looking for lights. This is what's working on mine with the 2-pin connector. So before you go out and order some, make sure you're familiar with that, or whatever kind of modification you might need to make one or the other work for you. I haven't messed with that. I just got what I needed. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the 3-pin connector is for a 2-filament bulb. So I don't know if you have like a high-low on that bulb and your center, or it's been a while, and I don't want to mislead anybody on that. So just keep that in mind before you order anything. If you do, make sure you have a 2-pin or a 3-pin and order the lights accordingly. All right, so here's what I mean by 2-pin connector. If you look, zoom in on this a little bit. You got 2 holes or receptacles in there. You got green wire coming to it and the brown wire coming to it. Green, brown. Brown goes to the voltage regulator. Green goes up to your switch, you know, and then it's wired from there. I won't get into all of that, obviously. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut this receptacle off, widen back out here so you can see, because I'm not going to be able to see the screen while I'm doing it. So I'm going to cut this off. I'm actually going to leave a little wire in case one day I want to rewire it or have a need to do something with it in the future. I don't know. So cut that off. That's off. Gonna strip off the coating off the end of these wires. The next one down, I guess. So I got a wire, nice bare wire. Again, nice bare wire. Give those a twist. And I'm going to put on some shrink wrap on here, because I'm going to shrink wrap all this after I put the connectors on. I've already put a set of connectors on the ends of one of the lights, and I was just going to demonstrate this for you. First, this is some shrink wrap. If you're not familiar with that, you hit it with a kind of like a heat gun. Looks like a hair dryer. I'm going to make that a little bit shorter, just so I got some room to work below it. Put that on there. And I'm also going to put a couple of these on there. Actually, that needs to be a little shorter even yet still. And you'll see what this one up here is for, because I'm going to do each individually, and then I'm going to slide this down over the two and seal it even tighter and better. That's the whole purpose of that. So, again, my green being the positive and my brown being the negative. green positive. Positive is usually red, so I got a pink connector to kind of indicate that. Whoops, forgot to put my shrink wrap on there. Heat shrink first, then my red connector. I'm juggling a lot of stuff here in my hands and just making sure I don't forget a step as I go here. Because, you know, once you put it on, if you didn't put your shrink wrap on, heat shrink deal on there, then you got to kind of cut it off and start over. And I don't want to do that. So crimping that on there, again, red on the positive, which is the green. Connector. And I've put the appropriate connector on the other end, or on the wire. So blue is going to be my negative because I only have a red and a blue. And that will be to the brown wire. And again, putting some shrink wrap on there, or heat shrink. I don't know why I keep calling it shrink wrap. You know what I mean. So you don't have to use these connectors either. I mean, do whatever you want as far as that goes. I'm just showing you what I'm doing, and maybe probably taking more of your time than you want me to show you this part. You can use whatever connectors you want. I'm just doing this for people that maybe just are absolutely unfamiliar with the process. I'm going to cover up that one. So that gets pretty hot, so don't get your fingers. And then, if I can, slide that over. I don't think I'm going to be able to. Yeah, there we go. We'll just get that right there. All right, those are on there. I'm going to have to tweak this a little bit, cut this back to allow the wires to get in there. I'll do that here right about there. Feed these back in here. And the beauty about, just another thing I don't know if I mentioned earlier, but the nice thing about LEDs is if you're confused about which is positive and which is negative, they can only be hooked up right to work. And you shouldn't really cause any damage to anything if you hook them up backwards. And I'll demonstrate that for you by hooking them up backwards and show you. You know, and the color coding that I have on here will demonstrate that for you too. So, like I said, I already pre-wired or put connectors on one of my lights here. You know, the appropriate pink to red, blue to brown to black. I'm going to hook them up correctly. Red to red and blue to blue. Tight fit. Might have missshaped it a little bit when I was. So, show you that. If I can reach my key and everything here. Oh, I gotta get this on also. So there you go, that's on. And then I'm gonna mount them for you. I'll show you that, you know, before and after what it looked like with the other lights and how these compare. But I'm gonna demonstrate for you what happens if you were doing this with a regular light, a non-LED. I don't know what the proper term is. I don't know if incandescent is really what we're talking about, but a non-LED bulb, say a halogen, and you were to hook them up backwards, you could cause some damage to some of your equipment. This, however, LED bulbs have what's called forward bias and reverse bias, and I'm not going to get into all of that, but so it either has a connection or it does not. So you see those are backwards now, red to blue, blue to red. And I'll turn it on. Nothing's blowing up. Everything's okay. Turning it off. Switching it back. up to the appropriate connections, blue to blue, red to red. And I'm going to put an additional shrink wrap over this whole thing too. It's overkill, but I want to make sure that at least that part of it that I have control over is good. See, there you go, still working. So, and I don't know if I mentioned, 2-pin is for the bulb replacement. I believe it's 40300058 for the 2-pin, and then a 3-pin is 40300061. So make sure you have the appropriate one. Look at that, what your connector is. This is a 2-pin. A 3-pin obviously has 3. There are many, if you Google or do any type of search for replacement bulbs for 40300058, the majority of the search results come back as a 6-1. So you really got to look at that. And they're hard to come by. There is one LED replacement that while I was doing my homework, I could not find that bulb. It was on Amazon and it was out of stock, and it said don't know when it'll be back. And that bulb, I believe it was a Genesis, and it requires you to do some drilling in the back of your original light to accommodate the diameter of it to put it in. And those were reasonable. And I looked earlier and they are in stock again. I don't recall how much they were. So that is an option for you, but I decided to go with these just because I could buy, for the set of 2 bulbs, to replace the bulb with the original bulb from Polaris or other source, I could buy this set of lights 3 times. So to me it was kind of a no-brainer. And they're brighter. Your original bulbs are, I believe, 27 watt, and I think these, I gotta double check that. I'll double check it and I'll put it in the description. But now I'll show you real quick the comparison side by side, each one, you know, how they look mounted on the bumper and all that, and I'll show you how to mount them as well here, what I did. So I'm going to just do a little review on a couple of things here real quick. First of all, put that on there before you mount this bracket. This bracket is a little bit of a test in patience, because you put an Allen screw in there on each side of the bracket that pinches this, and then inside this hole you have to put a lock washer and then the nut in there, and it's a bit tedious to do that. What I did is kind of hold it up like this, got this in there, and then fed the washer over while holding this upright, fed the nut in there. Then the Allen wrench that they give you, because of its length, will not allow you to spin it. So I ended up using a T-handle, and that worked fantastic. You know, and I got that on there and snugged those down. That's on there. Now I've kind of eyeballed where I want these to be on my bumper. I'm going to drill a couple of holes in there. And of course you don't have to take your bumper off. There's certainly clearance and room to do it from underneath with it mounted. I just already had it off, so I'm going to drill these, and then again after I mount them I'll show you what it all looks like done. So there's that. Quick hole in there. Nut and lock washer. And this is actually on the side that I've already connected the light, but I'm just putting this one in here just for simplicity to show you. Looks like I need to remount that hole just a little bit bigger. Those are just all my bolts for mounting the bumper. I could probably go up a size in the drill too. Oh, that did it. Okay, so I chose to mount it towards the front obviously because I don't want there to be, I want to get the maximum light field from it. And I mounted them away from the outside edge so they're not getting sprayed with mud so much from the wheel. And if you look at your original lights, they're kind of mounted in that same manner. So, as you can see, I'm having to wrestle this nut on here a little bit. It's kind of tight quarters. I think if I put it in a box wrench and held it, it would be good, but I don't have one handy at the moment. So, there we go. Kind of snug that down a bit. And there you go. I actually would prefer them to be a little higher, and I may mount a spacer in there after I've messed with it a little bit, put the bumper back on, see how things really look. I may put a spacer in there, but I'll show you the final product, you know, when I'm done. But that's what you're gonna have, you know, one on each side, just like that. And again, like I said, I think I'm gonna probably raise it up to kind of center it and just put a little block or something in there. I'll probably need a longer bolt, but anyways, there you go. I'll show you what they look like when they're done here.